everybody? It's Beast News back at you with a new kind of video. I've done 3 interviews, sorry. Jason, thank you for coming on. Cue applause. Woo! If you want to just introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Jason Kennedy. I'm 22. I graduated from Belmont in Nashville with a major in audio engineering and a minor in Japanese. And I spent a semester in Japan while I was there, and I'm about to depart this weekend to Japan for the JET program to teach English. So I'll probably be out there for at least a few years.
That's awesome. How are you feeling? 'Cause it's soon. How are you feeling going into it? Are there nerves, excitement? Explain your emotions.
There's definitely a mix of nerves and excitement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very excited to be in Japan. I'm very excited. Like, the JET program itself has a lot of cool things. Like, it's I just love environments with a lot of people who are like really trying to like make connections and get to know each other. Because I love meeting people, and it's really easy to meet people when other people are trying to meet people. I find. So I'm trying to. Right. Yeah. Right. It's hard to meet someone when they're like standoffish and like really don't want to talk to you. But so I'm just super excited to be in that environment, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be in Japan, eat Japanese food again, be able to speak and practice Japanese day to day. I'm excited to teach in a classroom. I'm just kind of nervous about I'm really nervous about like the adult side of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, it's the first time in my life, I just graduated college, where I'm gonna have like a normal 9 to 5. Like, it's a job.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm gonna have to prepare for it. I'm gonna have to show up and like do the work, and like it's more or less a full-time job. Like, I'm salaried
Right.
on it. So just kind of more nervous about things related to that.
Sure.
Like, if I'm like just being a professional setting of like, are my bosses gonna like me? Are they gonna be cool? Like, am I gonna find that I'm gonna have enough free time to do the things that I want? Like, what is all that gonna look like?
I feel like the stigma, I guess, around the Japanese work environment, it's very like controlled, very strict. And I'd be nervous too going into that and seeing how they are with you.
The problem that I will face, I hear, is that I won't be like part of that like strict work environment.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like,
Okay.
they kind of expect me to be a foreigner, and
Sure.
like I have way more paid vacation time than like my coworker. Like, that's where the problem's gonna be. Is I'm gonna get all of these benefits because it's like this nice program and they want to attract people to it.
Right.
But none of my coworkers are gonna have any of those benefits, so I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm taking a day off, but I just have to hope that they're cool with it when they're like not allowed to do that. Like, I'm gonna have to try to not feel like a jerk, I guess. Then while I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna take this week off. And
We're going to a concert.
I'm not going to a concert. They're like just stuck working all day.
Man, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm jealous because all the JET teachers, like, they have an obvious passion for Japan, and everyone's there for, similar reasons.
Yeah,
that's definitely on my list of things that I want to eventually do. So I'm eager to hear how you do with it and how you enjoy it, and I'll get the first. Jason will be on again soon when I'm in Japan, because we'll hang out for a couple times. So I'm excited to hear how it's going in the early stages and kind of how that progresses. So.
Ooh, Sam in Japan.
Woo! Sam and Jason in Japan. Why did we just get a? How did you because I don't really know when you started learning Japanese. When did you like decide when to learn Japanese? Because I never really remember you being super into Japanese until like college, really.
Right. That is a good question. It wasn't like a super long-term thing that I was interested in Japan or Japanese.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't like not in high school. It really kind of did kind of start in college. A lot of the story actually revolves around COVID. Towards the end of my high school year, I'd like taken French for a couple years, but like never really stuck, and I kind of hated the classroom setting that it was in. I was like, when am I ever going to use this?
Right.
And then I reached a point towards the end of high school where I was like, no, actually, I think the only reason I hate French is because I have to do it, like because I have to be in a class. And I thought that it would actually be super cool to like learn a language. I remember being like super young and trying to like create my own codes for things.
Yeah.
You know, like I think there was always kind of that like innate love and interest in languages.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and I was like, okay, so what language do I want to learn? And I was super interested in Italy at the time. And going to Italy just because it looked like a beautiful country. I'd heard like great things about the culture. The language was kind of interesting to me because you hear about people learning like French or Spanish or like German, and I was like, Italy's a little like it's a little like less known, like not as many people do that. And I think I had some bands that I liked around the time that were spoke Italian and were Italian. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's study Italian. So I went super deep into that. I had started planning a trip to Italy during my senior year. This is like 2019, late 2019, early 2020. And I was like super into it. I probably did the whole thing for like half a year. I got to a point with it where I was about to start. I don't remember what book it was, but I was about to start reading a novel in Italian and like working my way through that. And I was able to pick it up way quicker than I was ever able to pick up Japanese. But when COVID hit and my trip to Italy got canceled, I kind of because I was kind of like, I'm going to stop studying Italian after the trip to Italy. I was like, it's all going to build up to this trip to Italy, and then I'm going to stop studying. And everything started getting canceled. My motivation to study started dropping because I was like, when am I ever going to actually end up going to Italy? And then so I felt like I could pivot somewhere to another language. I was kind of at a point where I was done with Italian. And around that same time, because of COVID and I was home so much, I was watching a ton of anime, also inspired by Sam here, who watched a ton of anime around that time as well, recommending shows, and we were talking about the shows and everything. So I was watching a ton of anime. I started getting into middle I'd always Jet actually was something that was on my radar since middle high school, I think, when I was watching Abroad in Japan, and he spoke about it some.
He's had to have done wonders for the Jet program. Oh my god.
Actually. And so I had, through watching his videos and some other videos, I had garnered some interest in the culture as well. And so for those reasons, I started studying Korean. But it's weird because around that time I was super into Japanese culture and things, and I was also kind of into Korean culture at the time as well. And so I was going through all that. I was which one should I study first? So I want to learn both. And it was Korean is easier. You should learn Korean first, was what I found. And then, so I started studying Korean. And then I eventually was Japanese is what I actually want to learn. I should start studying that. So I was actually on a schedule during COVID where I would wake up, work out. I had an hour and a half of Korean and then an hour and a half of Japanese, and I was on a set schedule.
Impressive.
Doing all that. But so I guess it's maybe a bit of a lengthy story, but the base of it is that I was super interested in languages, and it ended up becoming I think Japanese was inevitable at some point, just because of how much Japanese media I consumed. It's so interesting how it has just Japan and Japanese has just entered the daily life of everyone. It's a little unavoidable.
It's insane because I remember my dad's always been super into Japanese and Japan in general. He went back in 2006. It's always been a part of my life. He's always brought me to Mitsuya. He's always showed me anime and stuff like that. And for so long, people were like, "Oh, anime's stupid. You watch anime, you're a loser. You play video games, you're a loser." And now it's everywhere. Japanese culture is everywhere. Megan Thee Stallion made a song.
Speaking
Otaku Hot Girl. What?
Yeah.
It's so insane the 180 it's made, and it's cool because I'm happy that I'm not just a weirdo anymore. But it was also kind of nice being the I'm different for everybody. I like Japan.
Yeah.
But now everybody's going on Japan trips, and I'm not special anymore. But that's awesome. It's been really inspiring to me because I never really thought about learning Japanese, but especially after going to Japan, I was I need to do this if I plan on going back, because I just felt ignorant of the culture. And that's not to bash anyone who's been there for I know Sea Dog's been there, and he still doesn't like fluent by any means. But I just feel like if I were to connect, if I were to live anywhere, I'd want to be able to fully connect with their culture, and you can't do that without a language. So then when I came back, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then to be able to look at you and how far you've come to be N3, and you've been a great resource through my journey learning Japanese, however slow it may be at some points. So it's been great having you as someone to look up to and be like, okay, I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
not to be like, if Jason can do it, I can do it.
No, that's good to hear though. I mean, like honestly, language it's something anyone can do.
Yeah.
And it's like people hear like say all the time that Japanese is like one of the hardest languages to learn. Like
Mhm.
it is.
It's been one of the hardest
Like,
things
I
I've had
was-
to do.
Like
I
like
mean,
like I said, like when I studied Italian for like half a year, like I got to a point where I thought I was ready to read a novel. I am like slugging my way through my first
Yeah.
novel right now in Japanese, and it's still not easy.
yeah.
No, but that's great to hear, and I'm happy that I've been able to be a resource because I do I do really love language learning. I hope to like continue to. I've kind of continued studying Korean a little bit, and I want to keep like getting my Japanese up. I want to get a point with Japanese where I'm like able to buy, like I want to study Chinese a little bit at some point,
Mhm.
and I want to be able to like buy Chinese language books that teach from Japanese or something like that.
That'd be
Like I
cool.
think that would be super cool.
Yeah, like after traveling last year, like I've been out of the country before I went to Japan, but after seeing a whole different, where like Japan is so different from anywhere else in the world, and from coming from the burbs to going to Japan, you get a taste for just experiencing different cultures and traveling and stuff like that, and it just has heightened my sense, and I'm sure for you too. It's just heightened my sense of like I want to, because now I want to learn Korean, I want to learn Japanese, I want to learn Spanish, like I want to go to Europe, I want like all these different things. And you studied there for a semester in Fukuoka. Do you want to talk about that and how that was?
So I was an audio engineering major at Belmont, and I had like nothing audio
Mhm.
engineering related while I was over there. So it was mostly a mix of gen eds and then finishing my Japanese minor were my classes. And the school was Seinan Dakuin Daigaku. So Seinan Daku University, or I'll probably just call it Seinan for the rest of the time. But it's an interesting case because it has a lot of like exchange programs with different schools in the South.
Yeah.
Because it was founded by a guy from Georgia.
Hmm.
It was founded by a guy, like a Christian guy from the state of Georgia. So it's still a Christian school, and we still had convocation hours. So we still had like an hour where like we were supposed to go to the chapel and worship, but like no one did. Just no one who goes to that school is Christian, except
Right.
maybe some of the exchange students.
Sure.
I guess that was kind of interesting because it, like I remember like a day to day, because I had Japanese class every day. So every day I would like go to Japanese class for a period, and then there would be the break, like a 30-minute break to worship. We'd just go like to Family Mart.
Family Chicky.
We hit the Family Chick like literally every time during that break, and then we would go back and study more Japanese. But so
Wow.
there was
It was pretty intense.
yeah, I mean it's more intense than anything else I did in college for studying Japanese.
Sure.
There were some things that like felt strange, but I think it's just like Japanese culture. Like the teachers would read our test grades aloud to the class,
Oh my god.
which the first time that I experienced that, I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
Like it felt kind of childish a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
But like not only would they read out, like they read out aloud to the entire class, and they'd hand it to you, and they'd be like, "I know you could do better." In front of the whole class.
Wow.
So they really like motivated you through disappointment.
Yeah, that's insane.
There were definitely more rigorous like Japanese programs that exist.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd say in some ways it was intense. Like I had to study to keep up for sure.
Sure.
I mean, like the entire class was only Japanese. Like they had a no English rule
Wow.
in the classes, so it was also more intense than like I said, definitely more intense than anything I'd ever done
Yeah.
before.
I'm sure your
Um,
Japanese came a long way from being there.
Oh, so much, and it's interesting to learn like the little skills in between the language learning. Like one of the ways you get better at learning Japanese in an environment where you can't speak English is you have to learn how to explain words that you don't.
Mm,
Like if I forget a word, it's not like I can just stop talking and give up.
right.
I need
Pull
to
out Google
find
Translate.
right. That's not an option. I have to like find a way to explain
Wow.
around what the word is, so that the teacher could like figure out what I'm talking about, and then figure out what that word is, and like give it to me, and then I can continue giving my sentence. So through explaining around it in Japanese is like its own skill, but then through that you're using Japanese.
Wow.
So you just kind of learn how to talk.
What level
guess.
on the LPT were you at that point?
I hadn't taken the JLPT.
Oh, okay.
I go like Genki level. I had gotten through Genki 1 and then half of Genki 2.
Oh my gosh.
But then, so I've actually never finished Genki 2.
Wow.
But I was doing like a lot of self-study
Mhm.
around that time as well. I'm just like studying kanji, like using like sample sentences from like anime that I found and trying to read manga. So I was definitely further ahead than if you just went straight through
Sure.
the Genki 2, like the Genki 1 and Genki 2 books. But I'd say I was probably around N4, maybe like
Okay.
in the middle of N4. I definitely didn't have as much Keigo as is required for N4.
Oh my
I still
God.
don't have as much Keigo as required for N4, I think, even though I passed the N3.
funny.
Keigo is still definitely a weak point, because I spoke in most like Desmasen classes, and then with friends it was all short form.
Mm.
So
When did you take your N3?
it was last winter, so it was December 2023
Okay.
was when I took it.
Because I was planning on taking mine, but I didn't even think about it until my tutor brought it up. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I could, but I can't even imagine going to somewhere where I can't speak English. Like, I am not at all confident. We'll see when we go, but
Yeah.
I am not at all confident. Like, I can order, I can have like simple conversations, but oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wasn't either. Really, my professor Moriyama Sensei was like a great help
Mhm.
during that time as well, because the entire class, except for me and 2 other Americans, had been in the Seinan Japanese program the year before.
Mm.
So they were already in like the rigorous Japanese classes. They had been living in Japan for a while, so they had been speaking a bit more than we had.
Yeah.
So during that like break time that I talked about before, once a week she would pull me and one of the other students aside that was newer to Japan and like just have us talk. Like she would give us like pretty easy questions to answer and just have us try and like talk, answer those questions and work through it. And I'm sure I said some embarrassing things during then. I could recall one time when she like asked, I thought it was a weird question, so I had to hurry out, but she asked what my type was, like what kind of girl I liked.
Yeah.
Um,
Some of the Genki questions get really personal.
and I couldn't.
That's like,
They do. And I was like, I don't know this person. You're my professor. Like, what am I
Yeah.
supposed to answer? And I also had to come up with something to say in Japanese.
uh-huh.
And so like the first thing that came to my head is like, I like someone who like gives me things that I want. and like I just kind of continued with that. And my professor was like, "What? Like, or you did? Hopefully you give them things back." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give them things back." So that was one of the moments where I was just like, it was just answering the question, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even like the right answer. It was just what came to my head in Japanese, and I had to give an answer. There are a few moments like that, but the point is language learning, not like, I don't know, not who my type is. Like my
Right.
professor couldn't care less.
That's funny. Don't mind the fact that we just changed shirts.
No.
My lesson was approaching, and so we had to finish it another day. But that's dedication.
Dedication.
Super dedication. I don't really remember what we were talking about, so it might be. I guess I could have. Whatever. It's gonna be a little janky, but I wanted to, because I know I was talking about your study abroad for a bit.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how much culture shock there was to you, because I remember when I got there the first time, I didn't really experience much culture shock, because I feel like I prepared so much through like Abroad in Japan or just like anime. Not that anime is at all an accurate representation of Japan, but I just knew so much about the culture, and I've seen so many videos. So I felt like when I got there, I was like, none of this is like, I mean, it's all new and interesting and awesome, but like none of it really was like, what the heck? So I was wondering like what your first kind of few days were like when you were studying.
Yeah, I guess I kind of had maybe a similar reaction as you initially. Well, like that. Like I mean, I've been studying Japanese for 2 years in classes. I took like a Japanese culture course. I've been like I mean, anime's not the best representation, but it's not entirely false either.
No,
Like,
I mean there's
through like watching anime and then like I'd watch some like Japanese movies and just like stuff like little anecdotes I've heard from people I'd met who had been to Japan before. Like I kind of thought I had a really good idea of what it was going to be like going into it, and then I was like kind of right about a lot of the things.
Right.
Like you still make mistakes. It's still a little surprising. Like the first time you actually walked into a denkan, like an entryway into somewhere, and you have to take your shoes off. So I guess like I'd give you right off the plane reaction was like, and like as terrible as it sounds, my reaction to it was like, oh my god, I'm in an anime.
Yeah.
you have like the wooziness of like I just traveled for like 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
Just I went straight to Fukuoka. I just
Oh.
it's 14 hours direct to Tokyo, but I went through a Taiwanese airline that had a layover in Taipei and then flew me back to Fukuoka.
Okay.
So I basically was in Japan after 24 hours of straight travel.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like so tired getting off the plane.
Right.
And then I meet up with my friend and we exchange some money. We figure out what train we need to get on to get to the dorm. And we like get off the station that's closest to where our dorm is going to be. And so that, again, I remember that was my first reaction looking at the streets. I was like, literally. Like, we just, I mean, everything, like, I have not been to a place before that looks quite like Japan does.
Right.
Like, the way they do apartment buildings with the stairs outside and then the doors lining, the way they all hang their clothes outside. I know the other places that do that, but...
It's a very unique aesthetic, just the entire...
Like, driving on the side of the road, the way their cars look is so unique, like... The infrastructure is a certain way. I remember passing one of those like the best way I describe it because I had only seen it in anime before, like soccer anime where the school gym will be like outside.
Yeah.
Like there'll be a field and there'll be huge nets.
Yep.
That go all around it.
Yeah.
And I remember passing by one of those and I was like, I literally saw that when I was watching Aowashi. It was it's a soccer.
Oh yeah.
It's a soccer anime about a kid who moves to like Tokyo to play soccer, and they're in like those all the time. And I like saw one of those, and I was like, oh my god,
yeah,
those exist.
Yeah.
So that kind of was a bit of my initial reaction, but it wasn't. I guess I was like more shocked to figure out how accurate my perception of it was. That like the things that I had seen in movies and animes, like I'm seeing it for real for the first time.
Yeah.
Was super crazy. It does take a while to get used to cars being on the opposite side of the road. Not necessarily driving, but for crossing the street. Because I usually like right, left, right. You have to left, right, left when looking.
I never really even thought about that.
Yeah.
That was never like, I'm thinking back, that never really crossed my mind. I was like, this is...
And there was one time I was in the shuttle for the airport, and the bus driver was just whipping it because he knew where he was going. And there was one time where it didn't trigger in my head yet that he was driving the opposite side of the road, and we were turning a corner, and I was like, we're gonna hit someone. We're about to like head-on collision someone with everyone on this bus. But we were just on the opposite side of the road because that's where they drive. Like it was totally fine.
Yeah.
And then really like not a whole lot of like crazy culture shock.
I feel like I didn't really have
right
time.
away.
I didn't really have time when I went because I got there and it was just like, all right, like we're here. Like I was the same way. I got there and I was woozy and like I was like, oh my god, this is exactly how I imagined it. Like the streets are like Yakuza. And like I was like, oh my god, this is real. And I was just such in a daze that I was like, I was tearing up, like after being up for 30 straight hours. Like I was like, this isn't real. But yeah, there was not like I feel the same way. There was never anything I was like, because everyone talks about Japan like it's some like crazy like foreign land, and like it is very different from us. But
we had studied and had expectations going before. Sure. I guess like a better example would be when my parents visited.
Oh Lord!
And they had like no they had no idea what was gonna happen. So it felt like I was guiding them around a lot. There was one time I remember we were at the base of Mount Fuji. I think it was called. I might mess the name up, so forgive me. But I think it was like Fuji Kawaguchiko or something like that was the name of the town that we were staying in. And there's this one place, this restaurant. We had a hard time finding a restaurant, I think. And there was one place that we finally found. And we walked up to it, and it says, "Don't come in if you don't speak Japanese." And we were like, well, Jason speaks Japanese, so we can go. So we went in, and it was literally just like this tiny place. It was one old lady that like ran the whole thing.
Wow.
And they had the genkan where it's like take our shoes off and go in. And my dad didn't realize like how specific it was. So he took his shoes off and then stepped with his socks in the genkan and then stepped on the tatami.
Right.
And the lady was like, no, and grabbed his foot and started scrubbing his foot with a paper towel.
Wow.
And then was like, okay, now you can step on the tatami.
That's crazy.
Because it's the whole outside, inside. It's more than just like the tradition of taking your shoes off. It's you don't bring outside dirt inside. So you can't step with your socks on the genkan and then step on the tatami.
Yeah.
So he loves telling that story, which is, I'm sure it was a bit of a shock for him. He's like, why is this lady grabbing my foot? He was super great about it and wasn't like shocked or rude or anything about it. He was very go with the flow. But.
Yeah, that's how I feel like a lot of people need to be if you aren't super knowledgeable about Japan. Because there are a lot of it. I don't want to like paint this picture of it's like super strict. You need to like be conscious. Like you don't need to be super anal about it, but there's a lot of stuff that's different, obviously, and you can't just expect everyone to adhere to your American.
Right. It's difficult when interacting with different cultures because you need to kind of give people a lot of grace and like be able to tell the difference between when someone is actually being rude to you versus when it's just a cultural difference and they don't think what they're doing is rude. Right. You know, I just one example I could have of that is like in Japan, especially in the bigger cities in Fukuoka or Tokyo, there's a big expectation, like you pay for like time. Like if you're there for like an hour, 2 hours, you're there for the hour, 2 hours. If you had a reservation, you're there on time and you're gone by the end of that hour, 2 hours because there's like another group that's supposed to come right after you. So that like reservation and that time specific thing is very important. I did see how someone who's not used to that kind of culture could feel like they're being shooed out of a like restaurant, like seeing it as a like lack of hospitality or something. But it's literally that's to me like that's a cultural thing. That's like they're doing their jobs. They're not doing anything that they perceive as rude, even if you feel like it's rude. I could see something like that happening.
Yeah, and it's interesting thinking back because, like, yes, I was in Japan, obviously, but there was no, like, I literally went through my entire trip without using a bidet. I went my entire trip, like, I used, like, showers, like, I used my, like, normal toilet, like, Americans, like, ish normal toilets. I never really experienced the complete, like, I never slept on a tatami mat. I was always on a bed, like, so that's one thing. I will experience that on my upcoming trip, but so I guess I eased myself in some ways, but I've been interested in it for so long, so I kind of knew what to expect going into it, and it was, like you said, kind of exactly what I expected. How is it, like, do you think, because Fukuoka being your first place is kind of like a unique experience, I feel like, for a lot of people. What was it like going to Fukuoka first and then then stepping up to Tokyo? Like, because you didn't travel much when you were in Fukuoka other than your parents visiting, right?
I wouldn't say I didn't travel much. I went to Korea twice.
Oh, sure.
I visited Nagasaki and Kagoshima and Okinawa.
Okay.
Is that it? Yeah, that's it. So
only Korea twice.
Only Korea twice. That's it. So really, just I wanted to see Korea. And Fukuoka is really close to Korea. And then it was just easier to travel in other parts of Kyushu, which is why I went to Nagasaki and Kagoshima, just as it was easy to get there. So yeah, I guess I didn't do a whole lot of travel, and like I just, at least in like I didn't see all of Japan before going to Tokyo or anything like that. It was interesting because I feel like I was really like I was really grateful to be in Fukuoka at first, even though I didn't realize how good it was for me at the time, because with my Japanese ability and with like my goal of I want to study Japanese and get immersed in the culture, I feel like Fukuoka was a great place to be looking back on it.
Because I remember we talked before you went, like Fukuoka is like 99 point whatever percent.
Oh
like...
yeah. It's right. So it's very Japanese. So I was happy that it was very Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
It was really like was not like it was actually known in a lot of the like bars that I frequented or like restaurants that I frequented, that if there were a group of foreigners that went in, a lot of the times they were from the university.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of foreign travelers. There was a lot of tourists from China and Korea in Fukuoka. It's pretty popular with them, but with other foreign tourists, it's really not that well known. So I was really grateful for that, because what that meant was that the local Japanese population had no expectations of foreigners. Like, it wasn't like they had a ton of negative experiences with them, so they hated them. It wasn't like it wasn't like they had any expectation of us to be really good at like speaking Japanese or being culturally fluent. So having those lack of expectations and then being like with my Japanese all the time, being able to consistently break them was great for me, because it meant that like it was really easy for me to like talk to people. People were super friendly all the time. Whereas like I'd never had any experience like this in Tokyo, but I've heard some people experience people being less friendly to foreigners.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In Tokyo, and I would be very surprised if anything like that happened in Fukuoka, unless you did something like super out of line.
Yeah.
And then so after I was in Tokyo, I was actually like realized how grateful I was, like how I would not have gotten that kind of experience if I was in Tokyo, because I saw other foreigners there, and I feel like there were two kinds. It was either the people who knew nothing about Japan and were only in Tokyo for the tourism, or it was people who had been living in Japan forever, and they were really good at like speaking Japanese. They were really good at acting culturally like they were really good at that. So I feel like that would have like, those expectations would have harmed and that like competitive atmosphere. Like Tokyo is like New York is a good way to describe it in America. It's like, I don't want to live in New York because I'm not all about that like competitive atmosphere. Or all that. Like, it's great to travel to New York, and probably and same with Tokyo. I'd love to travel to Tokyo again, but I feel like living there, like even as a foreigner, there'd be so much like heavy expectation on you to learn Japanese and get really good at like the cultural thing, because everyone who is a foreigner and is living there is probably really good at Japanese or does translation for XYZ big company. So like I really felt that while I was in Tokyo. I was glad I didn't feel that at all in Fukuoka. Like Fukuoka was a great stepping stone into Japan, just because it was so welcoming for someone, especially with my Japanese ability and cultural understanding at the time.
Nothing wants to work now, so we're gonna wrap it up. It's already been kind of long anyway, so but thank you for coming on, Jason.
Yeah, for sure.
We will definitely meet again in Japan.
Yeah,
very exciting. Hopefully we have a concert, and then we're gonna explore Tokyo, be some devious rascals in Tokyo. Yeah, go to Shinjuku, go to Shibuya, so I'm very excited to share that with you and share it with a longtime friend. And it'll be cool going with my friend, because it was a lot of fun with my dad, but it's going to be a whole, because I know you went with your parents, and it's going to be interesting.
That's really, I'm so excited to be in just like the whole like nightlife scene. I want to experience, and I didn't get any chance to experience it at all when I was with my family, so I'm super excited to be there.
You mean you didn't go clubbing with Reese or
no?
But do you have I always ask my guests to pick out a song of the week, so what is your song?
We're gonna go with Unfold by Porter Robinson.
Heck yeah. New album coming out tonight as we record it. I'm very excited. It's gonna be like a week or two ago when you see the video, but I'm very excited. So thank you guys for watching as always. And thank you for being on, Jason.
Yeah, no problem.
And again, he will appear on the channel again very soon. So look forward to that.
Shout out the Bees Knees.
Shout out Bees Knees. Shout out JR. Shout out Bejerd Man.
I just I went with Jaybird.
Jaybird. Oh yeah, Jaybird. You changed it for Bejerd.
I did.
Yeah. Shout out Jaybird. Check out his Plat Valorant. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.